Good morning. Sorry I can't be there in person, but as it turns out, I like Tanzania a little too much to leave. I'm sure that somebody there has given me a lovely introduction, but seeing as how this is a pre-recorded narration to ensure that issues with power and internet connectivity didn't keep me from being able to share with you today, I'll take a minute to introduce myself as well. My name is Andrew Miller, and I am a Victoria boy born and raised, with all the usual West Coast quirks. Love of the outdoors, general snobbery towards the rest of Canada, and cheering for the Canucks regardless of how many times they bomb the playoffs. I'll try and give you a bit of a quick background and tell you how I became involved in this project. I took a 10-year hiatus between high school and starting post-secondary, in which I worked a wide range of different jobs and gained experience in a lot of areas. Everything from manual labor and construction to childcare, ski patrolling, wine education, and management. But finally, I found something that I was interested enough in to make my return to school, that being business and management. And I ended up at Royal Roads in large part because of their flexible assessment, which actually valued my work experience. While I was at Royal Roads, I was heavily involved in the Student Business Club's SIFE, Students in Free Enterprise, as the Director of Marketing and Advertising. And as a result of this, I had the opportunity to get very involved in the Microfinance Business Ideas Competition, which served as kind of a forerunner for the Microbusiness Catalyst Fellowship. My involvement with the MFBIC really served to spark a serious interest in how microfinance and microbusiness development can be used to not only improve but also fundamentally change the lives of people around the world. And that leads me to where I am now, in Tanzania, working to accomplish just that through this amazing opportunity. So let's launch straight in and take a look at what exactly I'm doing here. The idea, in essence, was to have impoverished farmers growing oyster mushrooms as a means of income supplementation. Now, in order to accomplish this, I trained farmers and set up one local man as a distributor to hotels, restaurants, and individual customers. But where did the idea come from? Well, the first 2 weeks that we were in Tanzania, we attended a crash course in basic Swahili. And during one of our classes, our teacher, Mama Lois, she's the one in the middle there if you weren't quite sure, she was teaching us the names of fruits and vegetables. And when she came to mushrooms, she said, "You won't see them in the market. People here don't eat them, so almost no one grows them." And in that instant, I had one of those cartoon light bulb moments. I figured if I would buy them, then chances are so would many others. This area of Tanzania has an exceptionally large Wazungu or foreigner population. There are a huge number of tourists every year passing through to climb Kilimanjaro or go on safari, and thus large numbers of hotels and restaurants dedicated to their tastes. And there is also a very large rotating population of volunteers, some of who stay here for years at a time. And finally, there are the expatriates who work for NGOs, own tour companies or hotels. And all of these people together form an excellent potential market for the mushrooms. Of course, the idea is only the beginning, especially seeing as how I had no idea how to grow mushrooms, and I had no idea if this was actually something that was feasible for small farmers in terms of technical knowledge and the startup costs. So the next steps were a lot of internet research, some door-to-door market research, and taking a training course myself so that I could really understand the scope of what I would be asking the farmers to do. Fortunately, the initial market research was very encouraging. Out of the 15 establishments that I approached, over 75% expressed an interest in the mushrooms, with a combined demand of between 30 and 50 kilos a week. At the same time, I found a Tanzanian company that offered training courses that were exactly like what I was looking for. And after a 17-hour bus ride, I met with Gerald Ngaya, who has been involved in nearly every rural mushroom growing project in Tanzania in the last 20 years. And over the next few days, Gerald took me through everything I needed to know about mushroom production techniques suited to impoverished farmers in rural areas. And when I got back from the training, I began to search for a suitable group of people to fill the role of the growers. And in the village of Mwika, about 40 kilometers out of Moshi and up on the slopes of Kilimanjaro, I found both the people that I needed and also a local development organization with whom I could partner. Mwidefu first served as a means to source interested villagers to become growers. People like Cristanta, who farms a small plot of land to support a 10-person household. Now, Mwidefu was also able to provide infrastructure for the necessary microloans and will be in place to offer a small degree of ongoing support and oversight for the project after I'm gone. Now, since we're talking about the people of the project, I should introduce you also to my distributor Alois. Now, Alois speaks reasonably good English and is a very hard and conscientious worker. However, he has been unemployed for some time now and is struggling to support his family and put his children through school. Now, all of these people, the 10 growers in Mwika and Alois, needed to be trained in how to grow the mushrooms. And so to do this, I brought Gerald, the man who trained me, to Moshi and hosted a 2-day course. I thought now might be a good time to give a quick do-it-yourself tutorial in rural oyster mushroom production so that you really understand what the process is. So to begin with, you will need a small hut or room dedicated to mushroom growing. The hut can be made of a variety of materials, including mud bricks, straw, banana leaf, or wood scraps. But ultimately, the hut will allow you to control the 4 essential elements of growing: heat, humidity, light, and airflow. Next, you will need your organic material, or substrate. Again, there are many options available, but here we primarily use banana leaf and straw, both of which are easily available and cost the growers next to nothing. Next, soak your substrate in water for at least a half hour. Then, chop the substrate into small pieces approximately 3 to 5 inches in length. Pack tightly into a large pot or barrel with a few inches of water in the bottom, cover, apply heat, and you will steam pasteurize the substrate for about 2.5 hours. In this way, you'll kill any harmful microorganisms which might impede the growth of the mushrooms. The next day, you're ready for the bagging, as the substrate will have cooled overnight and you'll be able to handle it. The most important thing is creating a clean and sterile environment. Liberal use of Dettol antiseptic on yourself and work surfaces, as well as covering your mouth so that you do not inadvertently breathe out contaminants, is a must. The substrate is piled onto your work surface and mixed to ensure consistent moisture content. The substrate is then layered into large plastic bags with mushroom spawn and packed very tightly. Holes are poked in the bag through which the mushrooms will eventually emerge. The bags are now ready to begin their growing phase. They are first placed in the growing hut and covered in dark plastic for 2 weeks to allow the mushroom's mycelium or roots to spread and grow throughout the bag. After the 2 weeks, the bags are moved to racks in the hut and they begin to receive more light and air, which catalyzes the fruiting. After 10 days or so, you should see visible signs of the mushrooms beginning to push their way out of the holes in the bag. And in another week to 10 days, you'll be able to harvest your first flush of mushrooms. After that first harvest, you should be able to reharvest every 10 to 12 days for a total of 5 harvests and a maximum yield in weight of 80% bioconversion efficiency. Thus, 5 kilos of substrate can yield up to 4 kilos of mushrooms. So that's it. There is of course a little more detail to the whole thing, but in essence it is a very simple procedure with very low cost of inputs. The biggest problem with similar projects in the past has been that the villagers have been taught how to grow the mushrooms, which they've managed to do without difficulty, but they've been given no support in finding customers, and most have been unable to do so on their own, which means they eventually just abandon the project. And this is where the distributor comes in. The distributor makes regular visits to purchase the mushrooms at a set price and at the same time will deliver spawn and other necessary equipment like large plastic bags. So what is the impact of this project on both the growers and the distributor? Well, to give you a little context, an average blue-collar Tanzanian makes about 5,000 shillings a day, around $3.45. And with this money, they must house and feed their family and send their children to school. So let's take a look at the project by the numbers. The variable cost per bag is only 2,500 shillings. And with 3.5 kilos of mushrooms per bag, revenues will be in the neighborhood of 10,000. And thanks to zero fixed cost, that means an 8,000 shilling profit for the grower. All of that serves to give us a cost of goods sold of about 31%. And with 5 bags started every 2 weeks, farmers should be able to make approximately 69,000 shillings each month. This means that the farmers are increasing their income by about 46%, which is a pretty substantial difference. Now also we have the distributor. It's expected that an average month will yield 290 kilos from the 10 growers. So spreading the cost of transport across the 290 kilos plus the purchase price yields an average cost of just under 3,500 per kilo. Those mushrooms are then resold at 5,000, and at 290 kilos a month, revenue should be approximately 1.45 million and a gross profit of nearly 460,000. So compared to the monthly average of 150,000, this is really good income. So that gives you a pretty good look at how the project works and also how it is helping to radically improve the lives of the people involved. While my time here has certainly been rewarding, it has also been quite challenging. Many of the challenges I have faced have been the generic ones, which are inherent in adjusting to the culture of Tanzania. Language, a non-North American understanding of time and punctuality, and the energy-sapping heat. But my biggest challenge has actually been financial. My extended stay and the need to seed 10 200,000 shilling microloans has not exactly come cheap. 3 months of extra rent and food, and the sheer cost of the project have used up all of my remaining funds and pulled heavily from my own personal and highly limited money while I've been working with the university to set up a fundraising platform. The rewards, however, far outweigh all of the challenges and can really be highlighted in a few tangible milestones as well as the social impact that the project is having. Now, seeing the enthusiasm that people greeted the training, followed shortly after by the first growing huts being built, and finally the first harvest that I just purchased last week, they have all been really exciting moments as you can really start to see the vision turn into reality. There is also the excitement with which the market has greeted the product. I've actually got a few text message orders in the last 2 weeks from people I don't even know asking to buy because of word of mouth. And frankly, we haven't even really started selling yet. And of course, maybe the most important reward of all are all the people that I'm working with and whose lives are being so significantly changed by this. Of course, like any other project, the question is always what's next? In the short term, the goal is simply to expand the market, which will allow us to increase the number of growers throughout the region. To do this, we will not only be working to expand our current client list, but also working to promote consumption amongst the local people. In the longer term, there are dreams of producing and distributing other mushroom-related products like soup mix, and maybe other Western foods which are hard to come by here. I want to finish up today by offering my top 3 recommendations to anyone looking to pursue a similar experience in international development work. The first is learn the language. It can make a significant difference in your ability to form relationships and can really help you out of a few sticky situations. The second is based in something my father told me when I was a little boy. "Don't assume, Andrew," he said. "You will only make an ass out of you and me." I think it was equal parts good advice and bad dad joke, but the key here is not to take things for granted. Don't assume that just because something is patently obvious to you that people in the developing world will understand or be able to follow and share your logic. Finally, it's really important to recognize your limits. Stepping out of your comfort zone is great, and it will stretch you and help you grow. But if you go too far, you will just burn out and hate your experience. It's fine to walk the line, but it's different for everyone, and people far too often err on one side or the other, either sheltering themselves or pushing themselves too far because they think that if it is uncomfortable, it must be good for them. So thank you for your kind attention. Hopefully the internet is working and I'm actually present via Skype at the moment and can take a few questions now.